This is Dubai, an exploding metropolis located in the middle of one of the most inhospitable climates on Earth. A place that is home to over 3.6 million people in its metro area and nearly 68,000 millionaires alone. A place known for its towering skyscrapers and luxury supercars. But most importantly, it's a place that just half a century ago was barely on the map. In fact, in just about 50 years, the city has grown roughly 50 times in size. Today, Dubai and the United Arab Emirates as a whole have been transformed into global hubs of commerce, innovation, and tourism. So how on earth did we get here? How did Dubai become so rich? To answer that question, your mind probably immediately goes to oil, and you are absolutely correct. Oil money was instrumental in funding many of Dubai's incredible endeavors. But despite the fact that oil is an incredibly important part of this story, you are about to see that oil doesn't explain everything. So to explain how the city got here, we need to look at some history. Let's start by going back to the 1800s, when Dubai was nothing more than a modest fishing village located near the entrance of the Persian Gulf. A fishing village not just for these things, but also for these things, pearls, which drove the economy at the time. Today, the UAE is a federation between 7 emirates. However, in the 1800s, no such federation existed, and Dubai found itself in clashes over border disputes with Abu Dhabi, its neighboring emirate to the west. General instability in the region and the threat of pirates became a major issue for none other than the British, who had quite the empire to manage. Ships traveling from Britain would have to pass through Arab waters, including those near Dubai, in order to reach Asian colonies like India and Hong Kong. And as such, piracy in Arab waters would become an issue for the British, and they weren't gonna let that slide. So the British decided that they would step in and guarantee the security of the area in exchange for the ability to use their ports. This deal would be tremendous for Dubai, as its economy would flourish under new trade with British ships stopping by to stock up and or conduct business. However, just as all things do in life, this prosperity would eventually come to an end. The invention of the artificial pearl by Japanese entrepreneur Kokichi Mikimoto would greatly devastate Dubai's pearl industry, which would completely collapse in the 1900s. And to make matters even worse, trade in Dubai would significantly decline due to the onset of the Great Depression. How sad. So with no pearls and no trade, things were looking pretty grim in Dubai. In 1958, Dubai's neighbor and longtime rival Abu Dhabi would discover oil. But not just any oil, we're talking some of the largest reserves of oil in the world. In that same year, things would really start to change in Dubai when Rashid bin Saeed Al Maktoum would become the Sheikh of Dubai, thus becoming its political leader and head of government. Rashid was tired of being sad and wanted his emirate to be big and strong. And to do so, he wanted to create a haven for trade, one free of taxes, tariffs, duties, and all that other crap. But doing so would be no easy task. Dubai would need new infrastructure like bigger seaports, roads, and an airport. So after 1 year of construction, in 1960, Dubai would complete its first runway at its first airport, Dubai International. And later in 1961, Dubai would embark on the dredging of the Dubai Creek, so that way ships of all sizes would be able to dock in the city. Ultimately, the Dubai Creek would become a major asset for the city, helping fuel its growth. And just 5 years later, in 1966, Dubai would finally strike oil of its own, finding modest reserves of it in the offshore Fatah field. And fast forward 5 more years, 1971 would be a monumental year for Dubai. This is because Dubai, along with 6 other emirates, would come together to found a brand new nation, the United Arab Emirates. This new nation was heavily reliant on oil as its primary source of wealth, with the city of Abu Dhabi becoming the new nation's capital. The Emirate of Abu Dhabi was, and in many ways still is, the most important of the emirates, all because of its incredibly expansive oil reserves. To put it in perspective, of the United Arab Emirates is roughly 100 billion barrels worth of proven oil reserves. About 96% is located in Abu Dhabi, and as such, oil money from Abu Dhabi would become instrumental in helping fund the eventual construction boom in Dubai. Now quickly, let's go over what the United Arab Emirates is and how it actually works, because its government is incredibly unique. First, the United Arab Emirates is a monarchy organized as a federation of 7 emirates, which are Abu Dhabi, Dubai, Sharjah, Ajman, Al Quwain, Ras Al Khaimah, and Fujairah. Each emirate has a ruling family, and each ruling family has a leader called a sheikh. The 7 sheikhs make up the Federal Supreme Council, which is the UAE's highest governmental body. And every 5 years, this Federal Supreme Council chooses the president and vice president of the UAE. Though it isn't written in stone, the Sheikh of the Emirate of Abu Dhabi is de facto automatically chosen to be the president by the council. Meanwhile, the Sheikh of Dubai is de facto chosen to be the vice president and serve as the nation's prime minister. To the Federal National Council, a parliament that really only has advisory powers. This is all important to note because the sheikhs are incredibly powerful and largely set the visions of their respective emirates through their own ideas and the people they appoint to positions. In fact, in 1976, under the direction of Sheikh Rashid bin Zayed Al Maktoum, who we mentioned earlier, Dubai would move to construct a humongous port called Jebel Ali, spread across 52 square miles or 134 square kilometers. It was finished and inaugurated by Queen Elizabeth II in 1979, and today is the 11th busiest port in the world, catering to a market population of 1.5 billion people. Overall, this port would serve to largely boost trade in Dubai. And in that same year, Dubai would complete and open its very first skyscraper, a huge milestone in the city's development. This building was the Dubai Trade Center, which can be found on the 100 dirham bill. As you probably know, building skyscrapers would become the staple of Dubai and a part of the city's master marketing. Now quickly, I want you to name one brand that is native to Dubai. I'll give you 3 seconds.
Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God!
If you thought of anything at all, there's a pretty good shot that you thought of Emirates, the UAE's government-owned luxury airline. That's because Emirates is one of Dubai's best marketing strategies. The airline entices tourism with luxurious premium flights, famously in its fleet of massive Airbus A380s and Boeing 777s. These flights fly to and from the UAE with destinations all over the world. And most importantly, the airline serves to promote Dubai itself as a luxury destination. That's because Dubai is not only trying to make itself the trade capital of the world, but also the tourist capital of the world. Emirates was founded in 1985, and at around the same time, Dubai began to lean in on the tourist industry as a means to further grow and diversify its economy. With the passing of Sheikh Rashid bin Zayed Al Maktoum in 1990, his son, the current Sheikh of Dubai and Vice President of the UAE, Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, would inherit his father's position and seek to carry on his legacy. In doing so, he would move Dubai to begin the construction of some crazy mega projects. In 1994, construction of what is commonly called the world's only 7-star hotel, the Burj Al Arab, would begin and be completed in 1999. In 2001, Dubai would begin work on the Palm Jumeirah, a man-made peninsula thingy which would later house a massive resort called Atlantis. And in 2003, a similar project would begin called the World Islands, a series of 300 islands meant to collectively be shaped like the world map. Overall, these projects were not modest or even really practical in any way, but their purposes were not to be modest or practical, in fact quite the opposite. These projects were meant to be so far out there that they attracted international attention and ultimately tourists. And on January 6, 2004, Dubai would begin the construction of its most outlandish and iconic landmark, the tallest building ever built, the Burj Khalifa. Standing at a whopping 2,716 feet or 828 meters in height, the Burj Khalifa is unrivaled in size. For comparison, the One World Trade Center in New York is almost 1,000 feet shorter than the Burj Khalifa. Being completed in just about 5 years, the Burj Khalifa instantly became the top symbol of Dubai, the UAE, and even arguably the Arabian Peninsula at large. In addition to being a major center of global business, the Burj Khalifa also attracts 17 million tourists each year and generates $621 million a year in ticket sales alone. To put that into perspective, the Burj Khalifa cost $1.5 billion to build, meaning that from the current rate of ticket sales alone, the price of the Burj Khalifa's construction is regenerated every 2 years and 5 months. Though Dubai's many mega projects have successfully made it into one of the world's top tourist destinations, there is a dark side to them. This is because cheap labor in Dubai can be attributed to the migrant workers who are commissioned to build the mega project. These workers primarily come from places like India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and other South Asian nations. The biggest problem with this is that these workers are often paid very little, work excruciatingly long hours, and live in poor conditions. Of the United Arab Emirates' roughly 10 million people, about 90% were not born in the country, and a very large portion of that 90% are migrant construction workers. In fact, only 11.5% of the people in the UAE are Emirati Arab. A whopping 27.5% of the population are Indian, 12.7% are Pakistani, 7.4% are Bangladeshi, 5.6% are Filipino, 4.8% are Iranian, 4.2% are Egyptian, and 26.3% are from other countries. The large migrant worker population is demonstrated by the UAE's population pyramid. A population pyramid shows the distribution of a country's population in terms of age, running an increasing age up the chart, and gender highlighted on each half of the distribution. As you can see from the population pyramid of the UAE, the majority of its population are males from their late 20s to their 50s. This male surplus is because of the migrant workers who come from other countries. In fact, about 70% of the entire Emirati population are males, when naturally countries typically have populations that are evenly split. For comparison, the population pyramids of the United States, United Kingdom, and Canada are much more balanced. And this skew is not unique to the UAE, as Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Bahrain, and Oman all have skewed population pyramids as a result of their large migrant worker populations. Though these workers do make construction cheaper for these countries, their treatment by their employers is often highly questionable. But cheap labor is not the only thing that makes building in Dubai so cheap. Of course, Dubai and the UAE as a whole are famous for not levying any income taxes at all. And since 1985, Dubai has created economic free zones with major incentives for the companies that operate in them. These incentives include no corporate tax, which is usually 9%, modern infrastructure, 100% foreign ownership, and no customs duty, which basically means no taxes on imported goods. Today, there are more than 30 zones in total, with each having a unique specialty. For example, the Dubai Media City specializes in media companies, and the Dubai Healthcare City specializes in healthcare companies. The Jebel Ali Free Trade Zone, also known as Jafsa, was Dubai's first free trade zone, and at 57 square kilometers or 22 square miles in area, it is the world's largest economic free zone. In fact, this zone alone accounts for over 20% of the total foreign investment in all of the United Arab Emirates. So with all of these projects and foreign investments, has the UAE successfully shifted away from its reliance on oil? The UAE certainly has reduced its reliance on oil, however, it has not completely eliminated it. In 2009, roughly 85% of the Emirati GDP was based on its oil exports. However, today that number has fallen to just 30%, and Dubai claims that oil exports only account for less than 1% of its GDP. But this is a little misleading because Dubai is still very much reliant on oil. The reason its GDP is detached from oil is because Dubai itself doesn't have much oil. Instead, Dubai relies on oil money from its neighboring emirate, Abu Dhabi. Take the 2008 financial crisis, for example. As the global economy worsened, fewer and fewer people traveled, severely hurting Dubai's economy. So much so that Dubai was struggling to pay its debts. And so Abu Dhabi decided to intervene with a $20 billion bailout. With oil money, of course. Overall, the oil industry is ultimately what fueled Dubai to be able to build itself up to what it is today. From a small fishing village to a bustling metropolis home to millions of people. A shift towards tourism and trade is the path that Dubai is and has been trying to take. But whether or not one day Dubai will completely separate itself from oil is yet to be seen. Click here to watch my comparison between India and Pakistan. And be sure to join our first 300,000 legends. Stay tuned for my next video, and until then, goodbye.